Hello there, I'm Mrs. Groovy Grows, and I'm here to help you with Lesson 4 activities, applying circumference. Don't forget that the formula for circumference is C equals pi times diameter. And again, this is a proportional equation because it is in the y equals kx format. And pi is the k value, it's the constant value. So for the warm-up, it says, for each picture, which measurement is shown? Be prepared to explain your reasoning. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be quick and easy. This part right here goes through the center and has two endpoints on the circle. That would be the diameter of a circle. Oopsie. So we're going to say diameter. The wagon wheel has a 3-foot diameter. If you look at the plane propeller, it says that it's 24 inches from the center and it has one end point on the circle. That would be considered the radius of the circle. And the slice orange has this wrap around, it's wrapped around, and it's the distance around the circle. It would be the circumference of it. The circumference is the distance around the circle. Okay, the next activity, it says using pi. Okay, and remember that whenever we use pi, we're going to use approximately 3.14. So it says we need to complete the table, and it says be prepared to explain your reasoning. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, if we have the wagon wheel at 3 feet, then what's the radius? Okay, so if the wagon wheel, hold on a second. I'm just going to show you that if the wagon wheel is 3 feet, then do you agree that half of that, the radius would be just half? And if you take half of 3, the radius would have been 1.5. And if you look at, here, let's do this. Let's label this A, B, and C. So on A, we need to calculate the circumference of the wagon wheel. So I have C equals pi times diameter. So I'm going to have my aloha waves here for approximately, I'm going to do 3.14 times 3. And 3.14 times 3 is approximately 9.42. So the circumference of the wagon wheel is approximately 9.4. And did it say tenths place or hundredths place? It doesn't exactly say, but I'm just going to put 9.4 feet. Okay, so on B, let's think about this. If the airplane propeller has a radius of 24 inches, then what would be the diameter? Well, that would be another 24, and 24 times 2, or 24 plus 24, would be 48 inches. So now what we want to do is we want to write out our formula, C equals pi d, and we're going to use approximation symbol, 3.14 times 48, and that is, when you use a calculator to help you, that is 150.72. And, I just dropped my calculator. Okay, so I have 3.14 times 48. Okay, so I'm just double checking my math here, but something weird is going on with my calculator. 3.14 times 48. Okay, I got 150.72. So let's just put 150.7. And now D, or now C, sorry. On C, what we were given that the circumference is 20 centimeters. So what we need to figure out is what's the diameter and then what's the radius. So here's how I would solve it. I would have C equals pi d. And we know that circumference is 20, so I'm going to do a plug and chug. I know that 3.14 is pi, and so I have 3.14 times d. So this is like a one-step equation. So to get D all by itself, it's important to divide both sides by 3.14. Because, you know, the opposite of multiplying by 3.14 is to divide it out. This right here, that ends up canceling out, giving us 1. That's how we get the diameter to be all by itself. And then when you do 20 divided by 3.14, you get 6.4 approximately. So the diameter would be 6.4 centimeters. So now let's think about this, okay? If the diameter of a circle is 6.4, then you gotta slice it in half in order to calculate the radius. Half of the diameter would be the radius, and that would be 3.2 centimeters. Okay, number 2, it says a bug was sitting on the tip of the propeller blade when the propeller started to rotate. The bug held on for 5 rotations before flying away. How far did the bug travel before it flew off? All right, so let's understand something, okay? Like here's the propeller wing, okay? And there's a bug right here. Okay, that's a bad bug. I'm not a good drawer. But, you know, it's like rotating around like over and over, and it's rotating like 5 entire times, okay? So when it rotates once around, the shape is a circle, okay? So what we need to do is we know that the circumference, because we filled out the chart, the circumference was right here, it was 150.7. So if the circumference of that is 150.7 and it made a circle, it rotated 5 times, then it's gonna be, what we have to do is we're gonna take the circumference and we're gonna multiply it by 5 because of the 5 rotations that it held on. So if you have 150.7 times 5, I would get 753.5 approximately. It doesn't really say to like use the tens or hundreds or whole numbers. So if someone put 754, I would be okay with that as well. Okie dokie, let's move on to the next activity. Number 2, it says hobby basket weaving. Hobby weavers make baskets by weaving thin strips of yucca onto a circular willow frame. To make a basket with a radius of 6.5 inches, how long does a piece of willow for the circular frame need to be? All right, so let's identify this right here, okay? They're telling you that the radius is 6.5 inches. So I'm going to put R is equal to 6.5. If R is equal to 6.5, then do you agree that the diameter would be twice that amount? So we would have to do 6.5 times 2 or 6.5 plus 6.5, but we would end up having the diameter be 13. So what we have to do is, well, there's not a lot of space given here. So, you know, you can cross out, are you ready for more? So let's do this. Let's use this space right here. And what we need to do is we need to write out our formula for circumference is equal to pi d. So what we're going to do is we're going to have, it's approximately 3.14 times 13. And 13 times 3.14 is approximately 40.82 inches. So if it says how long does a piece of willow for the frame have to be, I would say approximately 41 inches. Okay, number 2. It says if a weaver uses a piece of willow that is 33 inches long, what will the radius of the basket be? Okay, so let's understand this. They're saying that this is going to be 33 inches long. Okay? So that is the circumference of the circle. So I have C equals pi d. They're essentially telling you that the circumference is 33. We have approximately 3.14 d. Now this side over here, since d is being multiplied by 3.14, to undo, you would divide by 3.14 to both sides. Okay? So when you divide 33 divided by 3.14, you would get d. Well, this cancels, and I'm going to rearrange it so that it reads from left to right. D would be approximately 10.5. So if the diameter of this is 10.5, you got to slice it in half to figure out what the radius would be. So if you divide 10.5 by 2, you would get r to equal approximately 5.25, and that all of that is in inches. So we're going to say approximately 5.25 inches. Okay, next activity, and I believe it's the last activity as well. So around the running track, the field inside a running track is made up of a rectangle that is 84.39 meters long and 73 meters wide. All right, let's annotate that stuff. All of that stuff is juicy and important. It says 73 meters wide, together with a half circle at each end. 1, it says, what is the distance around the inside of the track? Explain or show your reasoning. Okay, our goal is to calculate this length right here. That is the inside of the track. So the question said that it is made up of two shapes. It says a rectangle and a half circle at each end, okay? So think about this. Here is my rectangle, okay? And here is my half circle at each end. Together, two halves of a circle make a whole circle. So let's understand something right here, okay? I'm going to highlight, I'm going to highlight in pink this right here and this right here. Do you agree that the measurement of those two things that I highlighted, it says it in the diagram, it's 84.39. So I'm going to take 84.39 and I'm going to times that by 2 because there's two of them, right? So 84.39 times 2 would be 168.78. Now what we need to do is we need to, this right here in blue, this one and this one right here. Together, that would be the perimeter, that would be the circumference of a circle, the outside distance of a circle. Those two halves would make one whole circle. So I'm going to use the formula C equals pi d, and I'm going to replace pi with 3.14, and the diameter of the circle would be this length right here. So that length would be 73. So 73 times 3.14 is approximately 229. All right, and again, it doesn't really say to like round specifically, so I'm just going to do this. And then I'm going to add those two up because we calculated the two highlighted pink sides. We calculated the two half circles. That would be the inside of the track. So what we're going to do is we're going to have 229 plus I'm going to round that 168 to approximately 169. And we're going to have approximately, when you add that up, it's going to be 398 meters. Number 2, it says the track is 9.76 meters wide all the way around. What is the distance around the outside of the track? Explain or show your reasoning. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of this. So now what they want us to do is they want us to calculate the outside of the track. Okay? Well, these two pieces, do you agree, are the same as what we had earlier on the inside? Okay? That's not changing. So really what we need, again, is that 84.39 times 2. That does not change. So we have 168.78. Here's the big but. This piece right here is different than that was on the inside, okay? And the main reason is because of the diameter has changed. The diameter is not 73 here anymore. So we got to calculate this diameter out. This piece right here, oopsie. Oh gosh. I'm trying to erase this one line, but now I have erased everything. I'm so sorry. Okay. Hold on. Let me catch up to what I was just doing a second ago. Okay, so this portion in red is 73, okay? What we don't know is this piece and this piece. But we do know with this diagram, right here it says that's 9.76. So if this is 9.76, this is 9.76 as well. So I'm going to add that in. I'm going to say 9.76. And this one is 9.76 as well. So what we need to do is we need to take the 73.00 plus 9.76 plus 9.76. That'll get us the diameter of the entire circle. So when we add up all of that, we would get 92.52. That's the length of this right here that I highlighted in red. So now what we have is we have C equals pi d. So we could say 3.14 times the diameter of 92.52, like we just calculated. And that is approximately 290.51. So I'm going to round both of those to the nearest whole number. So I'm going to have approximately 291 plus 169 to get approximately 460 meters. And that's it for the lesson. So I hope I have helped you out. And this is Mrs. Groovy Groves signing out.